Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to another episode of No Huddle Rodeo presented by Cavenders, coming to you, as always, from the Fort Worth Stockyards. And there's plenty to discuss today, but we are primarily focusing on Rodeo Houston. By far, the most important rodeo of the Texas swing, the most important rodeo of the 2026 PRCA season, especially without Calgary counting toward the world standings this year. The winners in Houston can essentially, in that championship shootout, in that Final Four, win double the money of any other rodeo. Really, the only other things that come close are San Antonio a little bit. You get $25,000 if you win San Antonio, or the Governor's Cup, which you get $30,000 for winning. But again, nothing compares to the $65,000 you get in Rodeo Houston, which obviously means that plenty of storylines emerge from every single event. A lot of new number ones. At this point in the year after Houston is the first time that you can look at the standings and kind of get an accurate snapshot of what is going to happen moving forward. It'll more so kind of smooth out at the beginning of the summer run. We'll have a really good idea who's in position, who's not. But right now, those $65,000 paydays loom so large. And we saw that from the jump in the tie-down roping. The very first event that determined a winner was that tie-down roping, and what a round we got in that shootout. Shane Hanchey, who loves Rodeo Houston, who wants to win Rodeo Houston more than any other rodeo outside of the National Finals rodeo. He is 7-2 to get the tie-down roping started. Two Cowboys later, one of his proteges, Kincaid Henry, is 7-3. The arena record, mind you, coming into that shootout was 7.4 seconds from Caleb Smith. So Shane Hanchey 7-2, Kincaid Henry, the new number one in the world, the guy who's off to a dominant start and who is once again in a short round, just like he was in Fort Worth, just like he was in San Antonio. Kincaid Henry, he is 7-3. But waiting there is the reigning Rodeo Houston champion, the reigning world champion 3 times, Riley Webb. And Riley Webb is 6.5 seconds. He breaks the arena record by almost a full second. And Riley you don't see Riley Webb, even at the NFR, he's all about just taking care of business. You don't see Riley let it all out very often, and that's exactly what you saw. He screamed a couple times. He pumped his fist. He threw his hat. And why wouldn't you? After that 6.5 second run, and I thought it was funny because Shane goes 7-2. He immediately sets the arena record. He sets the tone, and if a guy who's a 16-time NFR qualifier, probably now on his way to being a 17-time NFR qualifier, if he's 7-2 to break the arena record as the first guy out, there's a pretty good chance he's going to win, especially when you see Brush Minton and Kincaid Henry go right behind him and not beat him. It's a good chance he's going to win. So Boyd's talking about him. He's talking him up. Shane Hanchey could win this rodeo for the second time. And they show Shane on the broadcast, and he kind of smiles and points up at the scoreboard like, hey, you guys don't give me anything yet. You guys got to watch Riley Webb. And sure enough, Riley goes 6'5". They cut right back to Shane, and he kind of just shakes his head, not in a bad way, just shakes his head and like, yeah, I told you so. Like he could feel that it was coming. And afterwards, a world champion himself, Shane Hanchey, a 16-time NFR qualifier, very complimentary of the 3-time world champion Riley Webb, saying he will go down in history as the greatest tie-down roper of all time. 3 world titles, now 3 Rodeo Houston titles. Riley Webb trailed Kincaid Henry by about $20,000 going in to that shootout round. Now he leads Kincaid Henry by about $20,000. So, message sent loud and clear from Riley Webb. Rocker Steiner in the bareback riding, he likes to send messages. His are always loud, always clear himself, and he did just that. Remember last year, Rocker didn't really have anything won entering the finals of Rodeo Houston. He goes on to win the rodeo. He goes on to win the world. We know the story. This year, he had about $25,000. He entered number 17 in the world standings. He got better on every single ride, including a win in the second semifinal. And then he goes to that shootout round, and he watches Bradley Miller and Wacey Shala, two of his biggest contenders, if not his biggest rivals right now for a second straight gold buckle. He watches them ride for 89.5 for Bradley Miller, 89 for the world number one Wacey Shala, and Rocker Steiner on Disco Party, on the horse that helped him secure his round 10 win, or his world title in round 10 with a second place finish at the 2025 NFR, 90.5 points. And then 90.5 points once again in that shootout in Houston as the last guy out. And you can feel it. You can feel it with Riley Webb. You got a big crowd pop. You got that standing ovation. So the crowd's already buzzing. And then they see 89 and 89.5. And then they see Rocker Steiner on Disco Party coming. And he just sends this crowd into a frenzy. And now it stands Wacey Shala $93,477. Rocker $90,734. Bradley Miller $84,952. The next closest to those three guys is Jake Lees at $59,000. And Rocker was very much himself afterwards in true Rocker Steiner fashion. He said he wasn't surprised at the result. He wasn't surprised he won. He made the fans give him a little extra scream, a little extra love so he could remember this one. But back-to-back Rodeo Houston titles, and it really mirrors for Rocker exactly what he did last year. He's even competing with a lot of the same guys in Bradley Miller, in Wacey Shala. Remember, Rocker and Bradley were 1 and 2 all the way up until July when Bradley faded because of an injury. But they are both very capable of riding well all regular season long, riding well all summer long, and everyone else has their work cut out for them because there are three guys who have been terrific in the summer run of late, leading the bareback riding. Again, none better in Houston than the man who has been the best of the best almost everywhere he goes recently, and that was Rocker Steiner. We are not done talking reigning Houston world champions, reigning world champions either, though, because Cassie Mowry, 14-1-9 in that shootout. Her and Jarvis, best Haley and sister by 3/100ths of a second. Last year, they won it by 1/100th of a second. Cassie Mowry, the only barrel racer to turn in multiple times a 14-2 or faster in Rodeo Houston. She had 3 such times. And afterwards, she mentioned, hey, I don't have a lot of time in the summer to go on the road with all the colts I raise with my horse training. We know Cassie Mowry. We know that she can win a world title going to about 30 regular season rodeos. We know she is aided in that endeavor when she wins a rodeo like Houston, like Calgary. Now, once again, she has won Rodeo Houston, $65,000 in her pocket, and she's back in the driver's seat. She can go to only the rodeo she likes. She can go to where she expects to win. And it's just going to be another regular season of, you might not see Cassie Mowry for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, but when you see her, she'll be winning Greeley. And then you won't see her for 3 weeks and she'll win Spanish Fork. And then you won't see her for a month and it'll be the middle of August or the end of August and she'll do well in Ellensburg. Then she'll do well in Pendleton. And that's just, she only goes to places that she knows she can win. And she almost always wins a lot of money when she goes to those places. But in order to do that, you have to have a lot of money in your pocket early in the season. Well, the $65,000 from Rodeo Houston will be more than enough. Stetson Wright also added to his legacy the same way Riley Webb, Rocker Steiner, Cassie Mowry did. He's won the bull riding in Houston before, never the bronc riding. It took a ride-off with Shorty Garrett. They were both 89.5 on their first horse. Stetson 84 on his second one, Shorty 82. Stetson gets that $65,000 payday. And I said this last week, the winner of Houston would join Rusty Wright miles ahead of everybody else as the saddle bronc riding favorite. Now your saddle bronc riding favorites. Until someone comes in between them or takes over that number one spot, Stetson Wright is number one with $130,000. Rusty Wright is number 2 with $110,000. The next closest is Cade Bruno at number 3 with $70,000. Ryder Wright, by the way, number 9, Statler, number 14. So we saw Ryder win a world title recently. We saw Statler win a world title recently. We saw Stetson maybe get robbed of a world title recently. We haven't seen much of Rusty, but we saw an unbelievable start to his season. And now, like I said, until someone proves any different, it is Stetson versus Rusty right now, moving forward as your leaders in the clubhouse in the bronc riding. So a lot of familiar names up there in those events. A lot of world champions, reigning Rodeo Houston champions. Haley Williams won the breakaway roping, by the way, with 2.6 seconds. She has won Rodeo Houston twice in the last 4 years. But there are other athletes who Rodeo Houston will completely change their 2026 season and maybe the arc of their entire careers. Holden Myers, member also of probably rodeos, if not the most famous timed event family in rodeo, if the Wrights are the most famous in rough stock. He was second here a year ago and then was just kind of white knuckling all the way through, was on the bubble for a lot of the summer, ended up slipping to number 22 in the world with about $94,000. So he finishes second. That pays you $30,000. First pays you $65,000. Quick math, that's a difference of $35,000. If he would have finished first last year, the exact same season, if you would have just swapped him that second place finish in Houston for a first place finish, he would have not only made the NFR, but been number 10 in the world entering the NFR. So now, after 4 clean times in Houston that were 4 flat, 4-2, 4-8, and then 4 flat to win it, he has $81,000. He leads Tyler Waguespack, the world number 2, by $25,000. And if he just does exactly what he did the rest of the way last year, the 26-year-old will be going to his first national finals rodeo and will likely be going in the top 10. So again, season-changing, potentially life-changing win for him if he can go on to make that first national finals rodeo. But as we mentioned, he has gotten close before. Corbin Rice and Cooper Freeman, the team roping winners, they have never even really been close to the national finals rodeo. And now they are number 1 in the world after a 4.6 second run to best Jake Smith and Douglas Rich by 1/10 of a second. They are number 1 in the world. Neither of them in their first 3 or 4 seasons in pro rodeo had ever made more than $45,000 for an entire season. Their one run in Rodeo Houston made them both $65,000 apiece. Corbin Rice has never finished inside the top 50. His best season, he made $40,000. He already has about $80,000 right now for the 2026 season. So he is doubling up his best season ever. Cooper Freeman, his best finish is 44th in the world with about $45,000. Same spot for him. Number 1 in the world, about $80,000. And you want to know more about how this changed the season for these guys? They hadn't won a check since the Sand Hills Stock Show and Rodeo. And then they win Rodeo Houston. Even within Rodeo Houston, they are the ones that when you talk about tournament style and surviving and advancing, they were 4th in their semifinal. They were 4th in the championship round in the 10-man. But in the finals, where it counts, they made their best run of Rodeo Houston. And again, they are now only about $30,000 away for the rest of the season from making their first national finals rodeos. And again, changing their lives. They have already both won about double for this entire 2026 season in March than they have their entire best seasons of their careers. Jake Gardner could also change his life on the bull riding. A slightly different story because we have seen him do really, really well in Canada, We've seen him make the PBR Canada finals 7 times. We see him split his time between pro rodeoing in the US, pro rodeo in Canada, and then PBR Canada competitions as well. But now he just went 6 for 6 and was the only guy to ride in the shootout. And now he is number 1 in the bull riding and leads Stetson Wright by about $6,000. This is a guy who finished number 17 in 2024. But if he doesn't have huge early season Texas swing success, he either stops rodeoing, pro rodeoing altogether, or he only pro rodeos in Canada for the rest of the year. Last year, we saw him stop his pro rodeo season in the States by the NFR Open. By July, he was done rodeoing in the U.S. Now, for getting hot at the right time, I imagine that completely changes, because when you look up and you have $78,000, almost all of that coming from RodeoHouston, by the way, you have to now consider going to more rodeos in the U.S., going to more pro rodeos, adjusting your PBR Canada schedule around making your first national finals rodeo. And again, no one else rode in the shootout. It is hard to win RodeoHouston because you have to win, or you have to ride at least 4, usually 5 bulls. But if you ride all 6, you make a statement over 2 or 3 weeks that you can be perfect, because Stetson Wright was not. Tristan Hutchings was not. None of these other great bull riders were a perfect 6 for 6. Jake Gardner, the British Columbia native, was. And now for the rest of the way, he's got to win, like I said, probably about $50,000, and he will be on his way to his first national finals rodeo. He is certainly good enough to do it. He has certainly covered enough bulls all over the world, all over North America, to do it over the last 4 or 5 summers. It's just they have never been congregated to pro rodeo. Again, I imagine that will change up this year, similar to when Scott Gentner has won Calgary in recent years, and he goes, heck, now I gotta go down to the States and rodeo a little more to try to make that national finals rodeo, which he often does and has done very successfully. Jake Gardner in the same boat. So that's everything from RodeoHouston. Those are your winners. Those are how they impacted the world standings. Obviously, there are plenty of other storylines that emerge from Houston. We will discuss those throughout the week on all of our channels, on all of our social channels, but wanted to run through just the winners because, again, more so than any other rodeo, the winners matter far more in Houston. And we will look back on, just like we did when 5 of the 9 winners a year ago won the world title, we will look back on Houston as a big difference, regardless of what happens, as to how these gold buckles were won, especially when half those winners include Stetson Wright, Rocker Steiner, Riley Webb, and Cassie Mowry. So we hope you enjoyed. As always, like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend. We will be here all year breaking down all things pro rodeo, all things PBR. Some really exciting stuff coming. Maybe the return of the morning kick coming this week or next. So a lot to look forward to, a lot to subscribe for here on YouTube. But until then, this has been another episode of No Huddle Rodeo presented by Cavenders. Thank you to Cavenders. Thank you to Runyon's Fine Furniture. And we will see you for more content on YouTube later this week and for more No Huddle Rodeo next week to break down the next stop of the Texas Swing, RodeoHouston. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you then.